everyone. Welcome to Sign1News Live Virtual Chat. I'm Martha Anger. Today's show may take you back to your childhood when you were growing up as a deaf kid in school and all of the emotions that you went through, the good and the bad. I had an intimate, honest, and revealing chat with the creators and stars of the new Apple TV Plus animated series Elodefo, and their personal stories may bring up personal memories for you too. So get ready to share. But first, as always, let us know where you're watching from, what state, what country, and we'll give you a Rep Your City shout out right after these quick trending news stories. If you live in the Pacific Northwest, listen up. An evacuation order is underway in your area due to record rain and snow through the weekend that could cause floods, possible landslides, and avalanche risk across western Washington state. The rain and snow will stick around for much of the Pacific Northwest through today, Saturday, and then the area gets a break on Sunday. As always, Sign1News will post any emergency press conferences with sign language interpretation to keep our viewers informed and safe. When the Chicago teachers voted on Tuesday to teach virtually rather than in the classroom, that forced Chicago public schools, which wants in-person classes, to cancel classes Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. The teachers want additional safety measures in school due to rising Omicron cases. But the city says proper COVID protocols are already in place. Now a group of parents are suing the Chicago Teachers Union, claiming they were on an illegal strike and they want them to return to in-person learning immediately. The lawsuit also seeks damages for lost income and the cost of childcare. The Biden administration signed its first contracts with COVID-19 test manufacturers Friday. A $51 million contract with Gold Belt Security LLC to deliver over-the-counter test kits, and a contract with Revival Health to provide more than 13 million tests. It's part of President Biden's effort to distribute 500 million free and rapid tests throughout the country. The new test will be made available this month and will reach Americans through the mail. And check out this viral video of the week. Seaworld rescue team members are trying to figure out how this sea lion traveled miles away from the ocean all the way inland to a freeway and brought traffic to a stop. Here's the catch. This isn't the first time this particular sea lion has done this. In early November, the same animal was rescued from a different road and taken to a rescue facility. Officials say the sea lion has been showing up in odd situations and locations since then. So, has anybody at SeaWorld considered the fact that this sea lion is smarter than they think? He does not want to be held in captivity. He may just want to go home to his natural home. Just a thought here. The sea lion is really actually trying to communicate with humans that he's trying to go home. You know, there's overfishing in his area. There's no place for him to go. that's something we really need to think about and ask ourselves. All right, well, let me check in with my executive producer to see what cities are being represented in the show today. Karen, Portland, Oregon. All right. Welcome. Hello, Cincinnati, Ohio. From West Virginia. Yeah, stay safe there. Arizona. I love that place. Come on, come on. Rep your city. Where you from? Los Angeles, California. Yeah. Okay. Have you checked out Apple TV Plus's new animated series, Elodefo? Hmm? Have you checked it out on Apple TV Plus? Well, earlier this week, I had the pleasure of chatting with two of the main creators and stars of the show, Cece Bell and Lexi Finnegan. Oh, it was a fascinating conversation. And, we'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Okay? Check it out.
Hello, everyone, and a big Sign1News. Welcome to our two guests today, New York Times best-selling author, Cece Bell.
Can you hear it?
And voice actress, Lexi Finnegan. And thank you to our interpreter, Sarah, and Jessica. Jessica will be signing, and Sarah will be voicing for me. Thank you, and welcome.
Thank you. Hi.
Thank you. Right into our virtual chat. On Friday, Apple TV Plus released its new 3-part animation series for kids entitled Elodefo. It follows a young girl named Cece as she loses her hearing and finds her inner superhero. As many of our viewers know, going to a mainstream school and making friends can be tough. And Cece wears a big, bulky FM hearing aid on her chest. Does anyone remember wearing one of those? Well, I remember. With a little bit of help from her alter ego, Elodefo, Cece learns to embrace what makes her extraordinary. Here's a short clip from the series.
Eep, boop. Hello? Do you think my hearing aids make me look funny?
I don't see a problem.
Are you deaf?
I gotta follow my own path.
You can call me Elodefo. Oh no! Prepare for a monstrous makeover, my deaf friend. Stop!
Cece can hear Mrs. Singleman all over the school.
Wow, that's impressive.
Where is Mrs. Singleman now?
She just flushed. Oh my god. Mrs. Singleman is coming. Go back to your seats.
That was awesome. You're a hero.
I am Elodefo.
Deafo.
So cute. I've watched the previews. I feel like I can relate on a certain level. I did grow up signing as a deaf person, but our experiences are so similar.
That's really neat.
So I'm ready to hear from you, Cece. When you came up with the idea of Elodefo, where did you get the concept from?
I got the whole idea from my real life. When I was very young, I was worried that other people were going to call me Deafo, which was sort of an insult. At least I thought it was. And I was so worried about that I decided to call myself Deafo so that I would be ready. And then I thought, well, why not make it sound even stronger? So I added the L to it, which is totally incorrect Spanish, but it sounds good. And I sort of went around calling myself that in my head. And so I would have these little fantasies where I imagined myself saying the things and doing the things that I wished that I could do in real life, because I was very shy and very much a pushover kind of kid. And so in my dreams, I was like, yeah, I can take on anything. But I was very different from that in real life. So that's kind of where the whole idea came from for the book.
That's so cool. Now, both Lexi and Cece, you both grew up deaf. So I can understand why. So when you started developing this character based on your own story?
Right. Mm-hmm.
I do have another question. What made you decide to turn your book into an animated series?
That is a great question. I was very nervous about doing that at first because I was so protective of the book and protective of my story. But I realized that the more representation we have of any kind of disability is a good thing. And I think a lot of people who don't have much experience with disability sort of assume that every deaf person is exactly the same. And as you know, we are very, very different. And every deaf person has to decide how they want to be deaf and how they want to communicate and what are the easiest ways and the best ways to do things. And so I thought it was really important for people to see that not only are there many ways that a deaf person can be deaf, but we are all just like everybody else. And this story is really more about a kid who just happens to be deaf. And because we have all the same hopes and dreams and crushes and friendship troubles as anybody else. But I just wanted to sort of normalize that experience for anybody who might be watching.
Yeah, that's exactly what we share in common with having a deaf background. Mm-hmm. Of course, I was mainstreamed and I did have a tough time making friends. I had to wear this big bulky FM and I hated it. And the teacher would always come up to me and, make adjustments. And I felt like I should be able to make the adjustments on my own. So I preferred using hearing aids. But you're right. As a deaf person, we don't have one singular experience. We all have our unique experience, whether it be we grew up mainstreamed, our families sign, our families don't sign. Some have deaf families that are passing down this sign language. So it all builds into this collective identity. So great. That's so cool. And one more thing, Cece, how did you feel when Apple TV decided to pick up the series?
I was really surprised, very surprised. I knew that the book was very well received, but I never in a million years would have imagined that this particular story would end up on television. And I love TV. I mean, I love TV so much. So to be a part of that world is really exciting. It was really neat.
Yeah, I can relate. As a filmmaker myself, I can understand that type of excitement totally. It's big, and there's so much possibility, and the world needs to know that deaf is not one thing, and it's not just, and disabled is not one thing. We all have our own experiences. So I'm really excited to see that Apple TV picked it up. So now, Lexi, look forward to chatting with you. So when they started production, did you have to audition for the voice role? And if you did have to audition, what was that like?
Well, I did have to
audition. As a deaf person.
So I did have to audition. So first, my mom got an email from University of Miami. And my mom was like, you should try to audition. And we just tried it. And my sister recorded it. And I was able to meet the director, Jilly. And it was so cool. We talked about books that we like to read. It was like amazing. And somehow I'm so thankful that I actually got to be the main role.
So do you experience any challenges as a deaf person doing voiceover work? When you're in the room, are you watching the animation while recording, or do you record your voice and then the animation is added later? What's the process like?
So when we did the first recording, they didn't have the animation. They only had like sketches. So I didn't really see much. But when we were doing the, it's like when you do the, it's like when you
the Foley, like the sound effects.
It's like when you have the animation, but you have to do the, you have to record some things. That's when they had the animation. I had the voice, and that was the hardest part, I believe, because you have to time it right.
Yeah.
But it was so cool because I actually got to learn about the sound engineers, like what they do for their job, and and it was so cool to like go past beyond my potential to be able to use my voice to help inspire others.
Yes. Exactly. And you are inspiring because you are, as a deaf voiceover actress, you're showing your voice as a deaf person. And maybe it's not completely perfect. You might have a bit of a deaf accent. So I can relate to you learning about sound engineering. As a filmmaker myself, my favorite part about sound, my favorite thing to do concerning sound and deaf acting, our receptive skills are so powerful. When I'm watching animation and I'm copying their accents and making noise with them, it can be a huge challenge doing that without any visual cues. So hats off to you, Lexi, for that work. So, Lexi, when you're doing the voice acting, can you personally relate to any of the storylines in the series?
I can, part of it, because I'm not going to try to spoil anything. So, but like in the trailer, you saw how Cece says she just flushed. That happened to me so many times in elementary school.
Yes.
And I always heard the teacher always forgot to mute the microphone. So I would always hear the flushing. Or sometimes the teacher would forget to mute and I would hear their conversation. But I can also relate to her, Cece, worrying about her friendships, because I worry about a lot of things because I'm a worrier. And I try to like not worry, but that's just how I worry.
Me too.
Yeah, I understand. I think that's normal. So I was wondering, I know you don't want to give much away, you want to keep it a surprise, but in the first episode or second episode, I saw that there was some signing in the series. So I'm curious, will there be more signing in the series to come?
There, we address, I think it's mostly in the second episode that there's some signing in there. And the animators worked so hard to try to get it right. They filmed some acquaintances of mine actually, signing properly, and then they used that as a guide to make sure they animated it correctly. So fingers crossed, it looks good. But it actually addresses my ambivalence about sign language when I was younger, because I was so shy that I was afraid that if I signed, that everyone would be looking at me, and I could not handle that. And I'm happy to say that I am learning sign now, but I'm very slow, very slow. But so it's almost all in the second episode, and it sort of ends on an ambivalent note, like sort of with regret. Why do I even care what other people think? I mean, I shouldn't be worried about other people, but I was. And so that was kid me. Adult me has a much more, I love sign language. It's amazing and beautiful and so complex. And so, but I wanted to acknowledge that when I was a kid, I was very confused about what to do. Yeah.
Yes, I can understand that. And I don't blame you, because it's a different time. It was a different generation, and deaf people really were stigmatized and looked down on. So
right,
since the 70s, sign language has gained more recognition in America. There's been more education, exposure. So now saying you love sign language and you want to see it have recognition, every person has a different experience. But now with technology, everything is improving. And like you say, with regret, it's important that you just embrace that pride, that identity.
Right.
And you're never too old. So I understand that trepidation about being seen signing, but at the same time, these days, you can see kids these days, they are so proud of their identity and their language.
Right.
And
I think you mentioned technology. It's the technology that's allowing me to take these classes online, just, practicing with YouTube videos and watching what they do. And especially with COVID making it hard to get together, you can still learn a lot of things online. And so that's been really exciting for somebody like me who I don't want to mess up, that little perfectionist in me. And so I can just practice in my house and watch my little sign language videos. And it's really neat. So it's really neat. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And now, speaking of having friends who sign and having the animators use your friends who sign as models, Cece, did you have a deaf consultant during any time of the production?
That was pretty much me. I was so heavily involved in the whole thing from start to finish that I was usually educating many people along the way. So that's why it was so exciting when we got Lexi on board. It was like, finally, somebody understands. I don't have to educate Lexi about any of this. And let me just say that Lexi is amazing. Oh my gosh. The hardest worker, the greatest work ethic. I mean, it was just such a joy and a treat getting to watch her. And I'm going to cry. I love her so much. But the show would not be what it is without her magnificent work. It was so good. Thank you for that, Lexi. You're awesome.
Thank you so much, Cece.
Yes, and I'm also so thrilled. As a filmmaker, I so encourage deaf actors to go after the roles of deaf characters, no matter if it's spoken or sign. And Lexi, you're a perfect example of this, being able to take on Cece's character as a deaf person. And you have that shared experience. You know what Cece went through. So you bring a level of honesty to the series. So I really enjoy seeing it. And it's so cute as well. And I think adults should be watching it as well, even though it's for kids. Because I know that many deaf adults will so relate. So congratulations, Lexi. I hope to see more work from you, more opportunities your way.
Thank you so much.
Now, Cece, so are there going to be more Elodefo episodes coming? I know we have 3 parts. Is there more to come?
Well, I'm not really supposed to say anything one way or the other, but we do really
Okay, lips sealed.
You will enjoy this little 3-episode nugget. I'm trying to think of the right word for it. Just we're so proud of what we've made, and yeah. So I hope that everybody will enjoy what we've got. Mm-hmm.
Yes, I hope so too. In film, there's so many different genres and age groups, and I think your series is such a great genre for deaf kids to know that they're not alone. And to see the book and the live action, both is amazing. Awesome. Mm-hmm. So now I've asked you both some questions. Now I'd ask you, put these questions to both of you. What do you hope kids and even adults, what do you hope they take away from this series? What do you want people to be thinking about?
Lexi, you should go first.
Well, I hope that they will be more open to how the deaf kids feel and how their experiences are, and like that's a mask.
Yes, exactly.
To hear.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And I agree that we need to know that we're not alone. That that, and even I think everybody, not just deaf kids, but everybody has moments where they feel very different from everybody else, and they feel very lonely. And I really would love for the show to just be like a friend to those kids. You are not alone, because everybody feels like this, no matter who you are. So that's what I hope all kids take away from it. And I do think it will really help folks be more empathetic with each other and with different experiences. Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally.
Yes. And that applies to adults as well. Like Lexi says, right. She wants adults to be more open-minded, more open-hearted. So I think you can't blame hearing parents in general, but sometimes when they discover their child is deaf, they take a medical approach, which can be a scary experience for the parents. So I wonder, that medical approach, that doctor approach, I'm sorry, but your baby has failed the hearing test. I can imagine how parents feel hearing it in those terms, from that perspective, in such a negative way. We need more resources to show the other sides of it.
Right.
That there's so many options available. There's mainstream, there's sign language, there's speech, there's lip reading. We want parents to know that there's all these options presented and available to their children, because there are generational differences between CC your time and the time and now.
Oh gosh, so many generational differences. When I lost my hearing at 4.5, and so when I started kindergarten, it was with a group of kids who wore hearing aids, much like mine, and we were only taught how to lip read and be oral. There was no sign language at all, zero. And I look back at that and I think, what? I think all of the different options should be offered. So today it feels like there's a lot more, just a lot more options. And when I have visited deaf schools, it's not just sign language, it's also some lip reading and a little bit of everything, whatever helps you. And I also love that kids today seem so much more proud of their hearing aids and proud of the technology. Like my hearing aids were always this ugly flesh color, but now they can be pink and purple and green.
Me too. And they were so big.
So great. So I think there's just a lot more acceptance and pride, and a lot less stigmatizing. I think you used that word. There's a lot less of that, but it still exists, and there are still a lot of assumptions made. And probably my least favorite is when a lot of people think that deaf people aren't very smart, for example, and I've come across that quite a bit, and it's so frustrating. because we are very smart people, because we are working so hard to navigate the world in a different way.
Yes. And we are bilingual. We know more than one language. So there you go.
Right. Absolutely.
So Lexi,
Mm-hmm.
do you have a similar experience as Cece?
Well, some experiences are similar, but I wasn't a shy kid when I was younger. I was more of the more outgoing kid. So I can relate to like having difficulties with the teacher, like asking the teacher for the microphone. I was a little bit shy about that because I don't like talking to the teacher if there's like a problem or anything, because I usually don't stand up for myself a lot of things. But other than that, I don't think there's too much that was that I was very relatable. Like that was very, very relatable.
Yes, because of generational differences. So that's why I wanted to know about Cece's experience and your experience and compare the two, because before there wasn't a lot of exposure or education. And now deaf adults grow up and they realize all of these options could have been made available. So it's good to educate hearing parents that they do have these options.
Right.
Great.
I also think that technology, especially today, technology is cool. And so that sort of translates into hearing aids too. People get excited about technology. They love all the little, I have these little Bluetooth things that help me. And everybody gets excited by technology. And that's a good thing. That's a really good thing. So you don't, when I felt shame about the technology as a kid, I shouldn't have, because kids back then thought the technology was cool as well. But I didn't know that. But today technology is everywhere. Everybody has a phone. Everybody has a computer. And so it feels like,
Yes.
it feels better, if that makes sense. Yeah. Overall, it all feels better.
Absolutely. But there is just one thing. Now with technology, adults become more isolated. And I don't see kids playing outside these days. When I was a kid, kids were outside all day. So there is some pros and cons there. But technology is very helpful, and it helps deaf people stay connected and not be so alone. So there is always those pros and cons there. So it's interesting. I wanted to share a little bit of my experience. I did grow up with an FM system on my chest and then hearing aids. And I grew up using SimCom and going to speech therapy. And then I joined a deaf residential school at 11, and I was in total culture shock. And I was actually bullied, even though as a deaf person, I was bullied because I came into the deaf residential environment, SimComming, and I had to really evaluate my identity when I got there. And I stopped SimComming, I stopped using my voice, and I decided I didn't need to use hearing aids anymore. That was about the time I was 14. But my family, they didn't mean any harm, but they always thought that hearing aids were helpful. And my dad would be like, how am I supposed to call you if you're not going to use your hearing aids? And I was like, well, Dad, if you want to call me, you're going to have to walk over to me and tap my shoulder. And so it was an adjustment since then. But watching your cartoon, it brings me back to when I was young, and I can relate to that experience of working with teachers, having to ask them to wear their microphone, with so much going on. And now these days, kids got hearing aids with Bluetooth and all this. I didn't have anything like that when I was a kid. I had to replace my batteries. Can you imagine? And your hearing aids, the battery goes dead, it starts making noise, all of these things. So technology really has changed. Is there anything either of you want to add to the discussion before we wrap up?
No?
Stephanie?
Well, I think this has just been wonderful, and it's been such a treat meeting you. And maybe next time we meet, I will be a little more fluent in sign. I would love that. I need to practice. Yes.
Yes, you will. So I know it's a little complicated going to deaf events these days with COVID, but there are so many deaf clubs, ASL nights, deaf nights, social gatherings. Right. So that's a great place to pick up ASL. So that would be my one tip of advice. But with COVID, I understand it's a strange time for everyone these days.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, that makes it so tricky right now. Oh, frustrating.
Yes, I understand your pain as well. So, so it's a 3-part series. So I want to let the audience know Elodefo is already available on Apple Plus for streaming.
Yay. Awesome. We hope everybody will enjoy it. Whoever watches it, I hope they will really enjoy it. And a lot of it is funny. So I hope a lot of people laugh too. Because it's funny.
Yes, it is. It is. Oh, it is captions, and yeah. And when I watch and I see the FM system, it brings me back. It's so reminiscent of my childhood. It's like, oh yeah, I've been there. So, but I was not shy. I was always very proud before and after being mainstreamed and in residential school. And when I was bullied in the beginning, I just faced up to them. Why are you bullying me? I know I was strong-willed. So still today, that's true of me. So when I watch Elodefo and Cece and how she's so strong, I don't want to give too much away, but I'm going to do my best to not give any spoilers for the audience. But I wanted to talk so much more about getting into it, but I won't ruin the spoilers. Okay. Well, what a great discussion, everyone. Thank you so much to Cece and Lexi for joining us today. And a reminder to everyone, Elodefo is streaming now on Apple TV+. Be sure to check it out. Thank you.
Now let's see what some of you are saying in the chat right here. Kelly Billy, can you share your experience with us from the 60s and Eagle? Or Kelly, and you have the book, you want to chat with us here? You want to share your story and your experience? Go ahead, you want to share? Deborah says, oh yes, I was suffered by 2 bully boys. I was a teenage girl, about 13 or 15. Myself as well. One boy bullied me. He passed away a long time ago. And then another boy is in prison for life. No parole. I guess that's karma. Kelly Billy says, I have Eldefo's book. It's good. I love it. Have you been watching the streaming series, though? So you've read the book. Just curious. Have you seen, you've read the book already, but have you seen the Apple TV Plus series yet? Just curious, can you relate to CeCe's experience? Kelly says, not yet. I love reading the book, though. There are 3 parts to the series, and it's really good. It's only 30 minutes. Maybe if you have kids, they could watch, but I encourage adults to watch as well. It'll bring back so many memories of when you were growing up. Deborah says, no, I haven't watched Elodefo yet. It's on Apple TV right now, if you have a subscription. It's really good. I enjoyed it. I laughed. It's good for children and adults. You know, become more open-minded and compassionate. Bob wants to know, what is Elodefo? It's from the book. CeCe Bell is the author of the book. It's her life from the 60s and when she was growing up, about 4.5 years old, and she was just kind of, there was no signing when she was growing up. She had to wear the big FM device and accept that. And so she created this superhero inside. Since she was a little bit different than other people. And a lot of deaf people can relate to CeCe, the character in the book and in the streaming series. And the cartoon is based on a true story, the real life CeCe Bell, her life experience, her life story. And so she turned it into an animated series. It was a New York Times best-selling book, and now it's streaming on Apple TV Plus. We'll find out if it's a box office hit. We do encourage you to watch, though. I hope I answered your question, Bob. Deborah says, okay, no problem. My pleasure. Did anyone see the discussion with CeCe and Lexi? Both of them are deaf, and they shared their experiences growing up, trying to find their identity and signing. Nowadays, we realize we wish we knew back then what we know now. Deaf people are going to be here forever. They need to recognize that we exist. Times have changed. Technology, has provided more exposure for the deaf community. We've got a long way to go, just taking baby steps so that people can become aware. And Bob says, yes, I was a child. I went to the Florida School for the Deafblind and Maryland. And I used to wear Elodefo. There is a different color battery for teachers at Maryland School for the Deaf. Is that what you mean? The FM box had different colors, Bob? I remember using it in elementary school. I was a rebel at the time. Oh, I've got so many stories about my FM, but that's for another time. Oh, it was so hard. Oh, my ears. I prefer the hearing aid. It's a little bit softer. And now with technology, it's just, you got the Bluetooth. Can you imagine a Bluetooth during our time? You know, we had, I think it was, I forgot, lost, I just forgot. I would lose my batteries. Kelly says, when I met a deaf girl, the deaf girl didn't know ASL, and I did. And so I want to teach her how to use ASL. I would share my culture when I went to college about ASL, would teach the ABCs, and it really inspired people to kind of pick up the language. You know, a few years later, you know, pretty fluent. Kind of find your identity. You know, there are a lot of people who have no identity, and so we want to welcome them. We're supposed to help each other. Yeah, it's kind of a big umbrella word. Any more comments about the book or the streaming series before we wrap it up? I saw someone was from Greece. I missed the name. Will you want to share why you think this is an important theme? Yes, it is interesting. Is your experience the same as Cece and Lexi? Did you go through the same thing? Ni Castillo? Okay. I guess we're all wrapped out with time. Time went by so fast. So let's start wrapping up. Great comments, everybody. Thank you so much. Oh, yes, it is very important for everyone, anyone. I agree with you. Okay. Yep. Go ahead and subscribe and watch Elodefo. It's already on Apple TV Plus. Hi. Hello from Greece, all the way overseas. You're welcome. You're welcome. LOL. Thank you, everyone. Okay, get ready. Mhm. A quick reminder, Sign1News is partnering with the American Heart Association to offer our Sign1News viewers quick healthy tips every week. If there's a health topic you'd like more information about, just let us know and we'll see if we can get it into the show. This week's heart health tip, rethink your drink. Consuming too much sugar can increase your health risk of cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, and can also lead to weight gain, cavities, tooth decay, and skin aging, just to name a few. And guess where many added sugars come from? Our drinks. Fruit drinks, sweetened coffees and teas, energy drinks, and sodas. It's recommended to limit added sugars to 9 teaspoons, about roughly 36 grams per day for most men, and 6 teaspoons, 25 grams per day for most women and children over the age of 2. Now, here are some quick tips on how to switch to healthier drinks that can quench your thirst and still taste good. Number 1, read nutrition labels and ingredients. Try to avoid drinks with words like sucrose, glucose, maltose, dextrose. Number 2, cut back slowly. Mix half sweetened and unsweetened to gradually reduce the sweetness. Number 3, choose water. We know that can seem like a challenge for some, so try keeping a cup or bottle nearby, and you can add a slice of your favorite fruit for flavor. And number 4, sip a smoothie when you're in the mood for something sweet. And that is your American Heart Association Heart Health Tip of the Week. What a great discussion, everyone. Thank you, Cece and Lexi, for chatting with me this week. To our viewers, and of course, our loyal app subscribers who help make this broadcast happen. As always, we like to end each show with words of inspiration, words that will hopefully help you dream a little bigger, aim a little higher, and find the courage to be a little bolder. Today's quote comes from award-winning author Malebo Sefodi. She is also the founder of Lady Leader, a platform that allows women to just be. And the quote says, reinvent yourself over and over and over and over and over until you find home. There is no timeline for the soul. Be sure to join us next Saturday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time for another great live virtual chat. Have a wonderful weekend, everyone, and good night.